If your company does not have an AI policy, that does not mean that your company is not using AI. You have AI running inside of your company. I have no doubt. It's just running without any rules. Do you recognize that? Like people are obviously using AI in your company. I've read some stats about policies and utilization. We're going to get into it today. But right now, somebody on your team is probably putting a salary, a social security number, maybe even a client credit card information into AI right now. And they're not trying to be reckless. They just don't have a place where parameters have been set. And so that's exactly what we're getting into today. We're going to talk about how to write an AI policy from scratch. I know. So exciting, but this is important. You guys have to have an AI policy. So we're going to talk about how to write it from scratch. I'm going to give you an outline for a one pager. I'm not talking about a 40-page binder. I'm not talking about this like I'm an attorney because I am not. I am an HR pro. I'm just trying to get you started so you have something because your employees are using it inside of your business and we need to get into it. Welcome back to another episode of Don't Waste the Chaos. I'm your host, Kerri Roberts. And I'll tell you what right now, I got a new iPhone over the weekend and I am so grateful, thanks to AI, that I was able to figure out how to plug because now I've got an iPhone 17 Pro. So now I need a C to C, and that's not the cord that I had before. And I have figured it out. But gosh dang, if I don't feel like it takes a full on master's degree to figure out how to hook cords up anymore. And I'm a pretty tech savvy girly, okay? Like I am, but this was hard. So I literally used ChatGPT right before I sat down to record. I was like, shoot, I don't know if I have all the right cords. And if I showed you, I've got this super cute little basket, but it's overflowing with cords, just hoping that I had the right one. And we figured it out. It's not perfect, but we figured it out. We've got it going today. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with you because we've talked about when it comes to AI in your HR, is your HR ready for it? And then we essentially did an assessment the second week that we talked about AI. Now we're going to talk about a policy because we have to have a policy. And it's not because I'm so lame that we have to write everything down. We just need some protection out there. We just need some protection. Your team is already using AI. The question is not whether to let them because they're going to. It's whether you've told them the rules. That's really where your protection comes in at. We're not talking about permission here. We're talking about more like process because they're going to be using it. If you don't set this up inside of your organization, here's what's going to happen. If you don't provide them with the tools and the parameters and the rules and the outlines, then they're just going to use, I would just going to use their personal AI for work to make their work easier. And then you're not going to be recognizing the fact that they're using AI, and then your company information is going to be stored on their personal AI. We've got to just pay for it, and we've got to have a policy, and we've got to be rocking and rolling with it. I mean, that's where we're at today. I can't imagine how you are going to ignore this for much longer. I'm recording this episode at the beginning of August of 2026, and friend, if you think that you're going to ignore AI in your business, you're just not. It's not possible. It has reformed my business. The admin and the marketing side of my business has been absolutely reformed. And your business can too. And it's actually a beautiful thing in a lot of ways. I know we have opinions on data centers and, some of the repercussions and AI slop on social media. I've got opinions on all of that too, but there's also so many ways that it's helpful. And last week we talked about some of the things that we can use it for. We're going to get way deeper into that, especially from an HR perspective over the next several weeks. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, do so because we're really going to jump off the deep end. But here's what's happening. You've got AI with no guardrail. Someone's passing the compensation spreadsheet into a chatbot. A manager is running a termination through their AI, but maybe hasn't told them what state they're operating in or any of your other, let's say that you've got grants that you're getting from the state or federal level, it's short-sighted in a lot of ways. So we need to help guide and we need to help train because we are going to be utilizing it. Social security numbers are just up in the browser tab. That's just happening right now without the parameters. So let's talk about it. This episode is going to help you write a real one-page policy from scratch. That's the goal of today. Not can your HR hold AI, not what you need to automate first. That's what we've covered. It is what the policy is going to look like. So again, policy is not permission. It is protection for your organization. Most people are thinking that an AI policy just means, can you use it? Yes or no. And most people have already decided for you that they're going to use it. I saw a stat in Gallup that said 40% of employees are using AI at work right now, whether the company has a policy for it or not. That is over double of what it was in 2023, which makes sense. That was 3 years ago. 8% of your employees are using it every single day. Every single day, 8% are using. I'm using it every single day. I'm surprised if someone's not using it every single day. Here's the part that should make you feel better, not worse. Only about 3 in 10 companies have a policy right now or any guidelines at all around it. So you're not behind. Okay, I want to say that you're behind, but compared to everyone else, only 3 in 10 companies have guardrails for it at all. So in that sense, you're not behind, but let's make sure that you're not one of those companies that stays behind. A policy just tells your team what's safe to put in, who owns the decision at the end, what's not safe to put in. It's having some caution instead of just having an open door and acting like it doesn't exist, because that's kind of ignorant. The 40% of employees using AI at work, that came from Gallup, and then only about 30% of organizations have any guidelines at all. That came from Gallup as well. Fresh data. So this is accurate stuff, because you can pull that data down from AI right now and it can crowdsource it for you. It's so good, but we need some parameters. So the finance piece of this, I know so many times when it comes to human resources, we're thinking about it from a cost center perspective, which I would say then you don't have a very strong HR person to show how it benefits the organization. But I digress. This is really where a policy can cost you. I would say HR metrics are finance metrics. I've said that over and over again on the show. Things that we're measuring have a direct implication to the bottom line. Human resources owns the largest line item typically, which is compensation and benefits and or employee benefits by itself. And so this is a finance issue, but every gap when it comes to your policies has an associated dollar sign. And I've seen a lot of those cases come across my plate. I've got friends who are labor attorneys and they see it all of the time too. If there's no rule on what data goes in, and the compensation spreadsheet or employees' personal information or client information ends up in a public tool, that's a breach and that's a problem. And that's something that you can get sued for. If there's no human in the loop rule, meaning that a human has oversight on the process and a manager is leaning on AI, let's say for employment law, maybe there's going to be a wrongful termination claim because of it. There's just a lot of ways this can get caught up. If there's no disclosure rule and you can't prove how a hiring decision was made, you didn't say how you're utilizing AI in the process or not, that could be a discrimination case. It's easy to miss on the legal side. I get that. More than half, based on the data that I've seen, 57% of HR pros are unaware of their state's workplace AI laws. That was in SHRM, which is a Society of Human Resource Management, a report that came out earlier in 2026. 57% of HR pros even are unaware of the AI laws in the workplace for their specific state. So it's happening all over the place. HR metrics are finance metrics, and a policy gap is a finance risk sitting on your balance sheet, whether you've put a price tag on that or not. And I've just been drug into far too many claims, whether when I was in HR for the last 20 years or when I was serving other clients and their HR teams. I have sat in a lot of lawsuits and been deposed, been in depositions. Some of these last 6 months, I've had one last over a year and a half. They are so time consuming. They are so financially draining. And even if you settle, it's still a mess. So what we want to do is draft the freaking policy. There's so many times where I'll hear a company owner say, I just don't want to put it in writing because I feel like then we're trapped to it and then we're not able to bless our people or be flexible or whatever. And I would just say, I see where that perspective is coming from, but that to me just comes across as weak leadership. Sorry. Sorry if that's the truth. So That's what missing out on this policy could cost you on the financial side of things. And again, the first thing I said is it's not permission, it's protection. And that's the goal here, is just to protect your organization, because probably things are going to come up with this. This is new. It's just like anything new that comes out. We're going to learn things over time where we're like, ooh, whoopsie. You know what I mean? Like cigarettes kill us and sugar is bad for us. And, whatever's going to come with Botox and GLP-1s and all of the other things that happen. AI, there's going to be repercussions that we don't see coming. There's going to be benefits that we don't even see coming. There's going to be danger that we don't even see coming. So we're going to protect ourselves as best as we can. So let's talk about the meat of this episode, which is what goes into our little HR AI policy. What goes into it? Here's the thing. Even among companies already using or piloting AI, fewer than half have a policy that's governing it. So if you write one, you're going to be ahead of the curve, and I'm happy for you for that. And you don't need a lot of legalese. Now, again, I'm not an attorney, so I'm just giving you my advice based off of what I've seen. But I think you need 5 plain English sections that your whole team can read in about 2 minutes. That's what I would do. That's how I draft handbooks in the first place. I don't want them to be overly complex. If it sounds like it's not in alignment with your culture or the language that you use, that's odd to me. It's just, if that is one of your cultural documents, then why wouldn't it sound like the culture of your organization? So the very first thing we're going to do, let's get into this policy situation. The very first thing we're going to list out are approved tools. Therefore, if it's not on the list, an employee needs to ask if they can utilize it. That's what I would put out there. Name the tools that people are allowed to use. And make sure that if they're allowed to use them, then you've got the paid or business version where data is not used for training. I have the business version of ChatGPT. I have the business version of Claude. And then, of course, I pay for Outlook. So then I've got all of the AI tools that come along with the Microsoft suite. The paid business versions, you can set security on in a much richer way than you can the free versions. So you want to be paying for these versions and having policies along with them, instead of just acting like people aren't using AI and then they're using the free versions and your data is out there. And even for the paid versions that are out there, I make sure that I keep my data scrubbed when I'm giving it to AI, so I'm not giving them everything. And then I match it back up on the back end, because it's safer that way. We just don't know. So we need to be very cautious about what it is that we're putting in there, but still utilizing the tool for the magic that it absolutely is. So we want to list out the approved tools. And then we want to say something to the effect of, if a tool is not on the list and you want to utilize it, you need to ask your manager, ask IT, whoever it is. You need to ask for approval first, and essentially show a use case of why the company needs to pay for the business version so we can have better security for the tool. Okay, second thing that I would have in this policy is something that I would call a never list, what you never put into AI. So employee sensitive information like social security numbers, date of births, anything medical. I'd be careful or wary about disciplinary action records, things like that. I wouldn't put compensation data in it. Customer confidential data, anything that you wouldn't email to a stranger, we're not probably going to put it in AI. And if we are, we're making sure that we have the security on lock. And maybe you've got your IT person saying grace over that. So then we've got our approved tools, and then we've got our never list of things that we never put into the system. Okay. The third thing that we're including on this policy, so we've got these no nonsense things. We've got the approved tools. We've got the never list. The next is where something to the effect of that a human owns every decision. We're not acquiescing or outsourcing decision making to our AI. I know that seems obvious, but this is something that I want to see you put in your policy. And it's something I also want to see you do in practice, really, because I think it's easy to let AI tell us what to do. Like sometimes some of us are doing that. So we just need to be wary of that, because we still need a human saying grace over this. AI can draft for us. AI can summarize for us. AI can suggest for us. And those are brilliant ways and brilliant reasons why we would want to use AI. But a human is the only one who makes and owns decision making that can affect someone's job, status, pay, client retention. So no AI only calls on people. When it comes to people, we want to be very weary about that. So human decision making, we want to have that in our policy. That's the third thing. Fourth thing, disclosure. We want to make sure we're disclosing when we use AI. When AI helped or made like a supporting role in making a decision on, let's say, here's how we use AI in the hiring process, in the recruiting process, whatever it looks like, we need to be disclosing that. Screening, evaluations, if we use it in discipline, we just need to say so and keep a record of that. That helps you understand how decisions were made later if something ever comes up. Let's say that there is a wrongful termination case. We need to be able to show if we used AI for any, like, say, looking for trends and themes inside of performance reviews, disciplinary actions, what have you. Or let's say that we didn't hire someone and someone said that it was discriminatory hiring practice, and we have to be able to show how we utilized AI in the process. Probably in a work instruction or a standard operating procedure is where I would have that. And then this policy also governs what we're able to like outsource to AI and what we're not. So a disclosure piece. Here's how we're going to disclose our utilization of AI in our organization. And then the fifth and final piece, owner and a review date. I want somebody who owns this policy, not a department, not a team. Who is the owner of this policy? What's their job title? And how often are we going to review it? And I would say right now, at a bare minimum, we need to be reviewing this quarterly. I usually recommend, for your whole handbook that you're reviewing it at least annually. 6 months is great, but at least annually. But when it comes to AI right now, because this is rocking and rolling and changing so very frequently, we want to be reviewing this policy at least quarterly. So what are the approved tools? What is the never list? Outlining that a human makes the decision, outlining how we're going to disclose that we're utilizing it, and then an owner for the policy and how often we're going to review it. That is a little one pager that you can use. Better than nothing. Would I say it's perfect? It's better than nothing. And is it something that an attorney would give you? No, attorney's going to give you an 11-page situation here because this place is the wild, wild west. So it's a good starting place. If you have an attorney, maybe ask your attorney for state specific, maybe ask AI to help you start this draft and give it the 5 criteria that I've recommended and see where it goes with it. But something is better than nothing. I can assure you that. Here's another thing I want to point out. When you're writing your policy, I don't want you to over restrict. I think that's going to be a problem that we see coming up that's going to be very difficult to hold people accountable to. And based on some data, let me see. I saw some data. I'm going to have to look. I've got it listed on here somewhere where companies who are using the policies are already being overly restrictive about it. But that's the mistake that most policies have, actually. A lot of times when I pick up a client's handbook and I'm reviewing it for the first time, they either use something that was a template and it doesn't have any indication of how they actually operate one single iota. Ooh, I don't like that. Or they had an attorney draft their handbook and it is like you have to have a PhD to read the handbook and your employees are absolutely not reading that, but they are signing off on it. And when they break those policies, as long as they can prove that it was too complex for them to understand, and a lot of judges are going to rule in favor of that if you've got an 86 freaking page handbook, then no one's reading that and you know that they're not. So that's what I'm seeing from a handbook perspective. Most handbooks are overly restrictive. And so we don't want to do that. We want people to understand the policy and understand the parameters and be able to operate inside of them. So here's the proof that it's worth doing right. This is the data I saw of the companies that do have a policy. Only a quarter call it clear and future proofed. So only a quarter, about 25% are saying around 25% are saying existing AI policies are clear and future proof. 54% of them are listed as too restrictive. That's where I saw that data. It's in the Society of Human Resource Management State of AI in HR that came out in 2026. So only about a quarter have them. And of the ones that have them, 54% of them are too restrictive. So then we're not even really going to use them, right? Let me see what else I said about that. So don't ban AI is one of the things that I wrote in big letters because I've seen companies do this already. They've already said, like, don't use AI. And I think maybe they're thinking, well, we'll use AI eventually. We just don't know how quite yet. So just don't use it yet. But how long is it going to take? I mean, this is a big thing. So you need to figure it out. Somebody needs to be working on this right now, whether it's your chief operating officer, if you have one, your director of HR needs to be working in tandem with IT and operations and likely sales to be able to figure this out. Because I understand this is an undertaking, but you just can't ignore it. Also, one of the things that I was thinking through when I was thinking about how restrictive most policies are in general or unclear onto how you actually operate, you want to be very clear about what stays human. I know I said that was an aspect in the policy that I want you to outline, but that's important. And it's also important for your employees to know that you're treating them with a human touch as well as part of your culture. So you want to hand AI the first draft of whatever it is, the job description or the first pass at the resume sort, or it can start a policy draft for you, whatever that looks like. You want to give it that try, but then keep in the human hands the hiring call, the decision around disciplinary action, the actual coaching conversation. When I see, actually, I was just looking this morning at one of my clients, and the CEO of this organization is putting out kind of a motivational message every single morning, but it is so clearly AI written that I bet you more than 90% of the employees are not reading it because they see it as AI. So even if this guy is like feeding AI or even talking through, a lot of people will use the audio message inside of AI and say a bunch of things, and then AI just gives it a draft for it. But you can tell when AI has drafted it and it just turns people off. It really does, even if you're including personal information or personal anecdotes or whatever, or you've worked on it capturing your language. You have to be very careful when you put things out because people are starting to get very numb to it and they're not reading it. And we want to be very clear about how to keep the human aspect inside of our businesses, or it's just going to turn into AI slop. I had another client who literally the CEO was putting out weekly messages. This is a different person. She was putting out weekly messages, and then I could tell that her employees were taking her weekly messages and then putting her messages into their AI because they wanted to respond to her. Also, she was a CEO that required a response because she had low trust with her people. And so she wanted proof that they had read her emails. That's a whole different issue. So then they were drafting AI back to her. And I was reading some of these messages and I was like, this is annoying AF. I don't want to read any of these emails. I don't want to read the email from the CEO. I don't want to read the email from the employee because all of this is like her AI is talking to your AI and back and forth and back and forth. And like, is there a genuine sentiment in this whole ding dang thing? I just don't think so at this point. It's a huge waste of time and we're just creating more work for ourselves. So we want to be really careful about AI can maybe write a draft for you, but you need to own the decision and stand up behind it and don't let AI be propped up in front of you. Okay, it's a tool to use. That would be like saying, oh, my hair looks good. My curling iron did this. I mean, sure, maybe you have a good curling iron, but you used it. You know how to use the tool. Maybe you use really great products around it as well. I want to know what your thermal protector is. And then if you're using a texturizer or a thickening tonic, or if you use a scalp serum, I want to know all of that stuff. But sure, you can tell me that I use a babyless curling iron or whatever, but your curling iron cannot save the entire day. So let's not put AI in a position that it can't really do either. And then the last thing I want to mention is we are going to be getting deeper and deeper and deeper into this. We're going to take this straight into where AI is showing up into HR. And the next week, I'm getting right into hiring. And I'm going to go deep on how we can utilize AI in hiring and how maybe we shouldn't. How I'm seeing it done right now. I'm going to share some stats and data about what I'm seeing out there in the HR world and some things that you can think about because there are tons of ways to use it. You absolutely should be, but we want to make sure that we're using it in a compliant and a safe way and being really productive too. And then what else can you think of to do with your time when you've got all this free time? AI should not be another job for you, friend. It should be taking things off your plate. So this is what I want to talk about in the future, but I guess we can get into it a little bit today. Here's an example of a way that I have used AI to draft a policy for me. So I'll say, this client operates in this state and they are in the X industry, let's say construction industry. They operate in the state of Missouri. They're in the construction industry. They're about $12 million in revenue. They employ around 38 employees. The vast majority of those are W-2, but they do have some contractors. And what else would I say? They're fast growing. They have a goal of, reaching X by next year. And they're primarily working on interiors and exteriors. I'm trying to feed it as much as I possibly can. Here are some of the issues that they've had. They have roadblocks and barriers with hiring and retention. They have competitive pay. I'm trying to feed it. And if I have a culture document like mission, vision, values, I'm going to share, okay, this is their mission, this is their vision, this is their values. Here's how they're putting that into practice right now. They interview to it, they have it hung on the wall, they have culture meetings, whatever this looks like. I'm trying to draft a policy for this client around X topic, AI utilization. Give me a first round draft, but before you do that, ask me 5 to 10 questions that I should answer about the client that go deeper to help you make the best draft possible for this client, remembering to be compliant to the state of Missouri laws and then also any overarching federal laws when it comes to AI utilization. I'm telling you, I understand that took a little hot minute to get through all of that. That is the way we're setting up our prompts. That's what we're doing. And if you're like, gosh, dang, that's going to take forever to type, hit that mic button on your AI and talk to it. That's when I'm saying a prompt, I'm literally picturing myself jabbering on to AI. I have AI on my phone. I've got it on my computer and I hit that mic button all the time and I'm talking to it because there's a ton of data out there that shows that your prompts are so much better when you're actually talking to it versus when you're typing. Because when you're typing, you're thinking about how exactly to say it in the clearest way and all this stuff. And if you just ramble to your AI, it will figure it out with you and it will also have a better understanding of your voice. And I don't mean your tone because it's not necessarily picking that up as much as it's picking up inflection and emphasis and things like that, and the actual language that you use, which is a huge part of it. So the more you can talk to your AI, the better it will capture your voice. And then it'll feed you back things that sound a little bit more like you would write it, which is helpful. So that's how I'm actually using it from a policy perspective. And that's a great prompt for you to start using right now. Go do that right now. I would also say, I was listening to this podcast, give a link to this podcast or copy the transcript or really just give a link to your AI and say, I follow this HR consultant and this is what she recommended for a 1-page policy. Start there and expand on that based off of the industry and my business. And it will go to town for you. It's so very exciting. So couple of things to remember before we wrap. I'd love it if you'd subscribe to the show, but not just because I would love it. The show is valuable. We're putting out valuable content and I know it's going to help you in your business. We're focused on AI right now. I think this is very important, but we'll get back to our regularly scheduled program about HR and leadership and business in general. But we're getting into it in AI and I think it's going to be really, really beneficial for so many people. But if you listen to this episode and you're like, I need it in writing. One of the good things is I've put it in writing. I've got the HR Easy Button book. You can pick that up on Amazon, paperback, hardback, and Kindle versions of that. If you want to hop into some of my coursework, I record about a 1-hour video of me teaching on every single foundational HR topic, whether it's hiring, onboarding, leave management, performance management, disciplinary actions. The list goes on and on and on. It's actually about 13 or 14 topics. So I do an hour teaching on that. And then I also give you downloadable tools, templates, resources, scripts on that same topic. So then you can take what you learned and go apply it in your business that very same day. You can find my coursework at saltandlightadvisors.com/resources. There's also a few freebies on that page too. My free mini HR audit is on that page and then a hiring guide. So make sure to check those out. And those are also great ways to get signed up for my weekly HR email, which is super beneficial and packed with helpful tips and tricks that you can take into your business today to make an impact. And as always, I am always looking for new clients to bring on. My goal is to graduate clients every 6 months, sometimes a year. And so I'm constantly looking to keep my pipeline full because I'm not looking to keep you on my consulting list for years and years and years. My goal is to build the foundation with and for you and alongside you and your team. And then I hand it off to you. Because if we've done a good job building the foundation, you should be able to run with it yourself. So that is my ultimate goal. If you want to get that mini HR audit and want to go directly to it, it's saltnightadvisors.com/HR audit, or again, saltnightadvisors.com/resources. If there's anything that I can do for you at all, saltnightadvisors.com/contact will get you in touch with me. And I've just recently revamped my contact page. I know I was missing some of my communication. So if you're listening to this and you have sent me a message since January of 2026, shoot me another one because I had to revamp that. I had changed some contracts and moved some things around. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what would be helpful for me to break down on the show because if you're struggling with it, so many other people are too. I hear that all the time. Like, oh, you tackled this topic. It was so helpful. And also, if you want me to come in as a keynote speaker for your business, your leadership team, or maybe your whole organization, or maybe a board meeting, I'd be happy to do that. I'm actually leaving in a couple of days to go to an association meeting in the state of Missouri for realtors. And so I'm looking forward to that. That should be a lot of fun down at Lake of the Ozarks. And I am their closing keynote, and we're talking about how to take their, I guess, over responsibility and break that down to who is actually responsible for what and how to manage their workload. And I'm really, really excited to be able to get into that with them. I do keynote speaking very often. I say very often, probably a couple of times a month. And it is one of my favorite things to do is kind of take this on the road and really make it specific for the business that I'm working with. So I've got those available. I've got retreats available. So whatever you need, reach out to me. It's always good doing business. Listen, I know that writing policies is not the sexiest thing that anyone ever did. It's not like I'm so excited to be writing policies, but I try to make it a little bit easier for you because this work is worth it. So don't waste the chaos. Embrace it. I'll see you next week.